I mean, I don't think I would have been able to do Love Island if I hadn't got the confidence that I've gained through running. Having worked in hospital and seen how how unwell patients can be, but they still manage to push through. I know that the body is capable of so much more than we give it credit for. I've been doing run-through races for the last maybe 6 years. You appreciate things much more when you run. You almost feel like you've earned that beautiful sunrise in the morning. I'm Priya. I'm a doctor based in London. I'm 26 years old. I appeared on the reality TV show Love Island a few years ago, and I absolutely love running.
I want to start with something I think a lot of people will think if they do follow you on social. How do you fit it all in? There seems to be a lot in your life and a lot that you get in.
Yeah, it is tough, but I think they all work together. I don't think I'd be able to be a doctor without having a break from that. And running is my escape almost. And if I was to just run, I don't think I would be satisfied with just doing that. I'd also need, some time just to focus, which is where medicine fits in. And so I feel like they balance each other out.
How do you decompress after a big day at work? Because, like, me being a radio presenter is very different to somebody being a doctor. Like, I can kind of take my headphones off and yeah, there's, the general day-to-day work stress, but there's not the pressure that you have on yourself being a doctor. How do you decompress and how do you leave that at work?
So, I mean, running is my main form of relaxation and
Yeah.
release. In the middle of the day, I always try to get out, even if it's for 25 to 30 minutes, just a little jog, or sometimes if I'm stressed out, a quick run. If I don't have enough time for a slow jog, I'll go for a quick run. And I return back to work and I feel like I'm almost a totally different person. I feel so much more relaxed. I feel like I've got more energy, weirdly, after having run than I would before. And I think it keeps me going.
When did it first become a part of your life then, running? Take me all the way back to when you first laced up that first pair of trainers, first got out and first maybe like experienced this feeling that a lot of us have of kind of solitude out on the road, I guess.
So it wasn't actually out on the roads. It was year 5 cross country.
God, yes.
I'd never done any sort of running before then, and I remember finishing cross country. I think I came like third, and I was just surprised because I didn't think I was much of a runner before, but I weirdly enjoyed it. Everyone hated cross country, and I was there like loving being out in the outside on the trails, fresh air. And since then, I just got involved with running, did some track athletics, but I found that quite stressful actually, being at the start line. That took away from, I don't know, the fun of it.
Yeah.
And then went to university, increased the distance a bit, got up to 10K and would do that competitively. And then COVID happened and I just wanted to be outside. I felt trapped being at home. And so my 10K runs turned into marathons and ultras.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, stepping up the distance to 10K for you now from some of the distances, some of the multi-day projects and races you've done, 10K must feel like that stepping stone was quite a small one. But, everybody's on their own journey. And, like, when you do step up those distances to, the marathon, the ultra marathon, looking back at Priya a few years back stepping up to the 10K, do you think she would have thought that you would have done this in your future?
Absolutely not. I did not think that I'd run ultra marathons. I used to find I used to always say I'm never running more than a 10K. And then at university, my netball team, they all signed up to the Richmond half marathon, and I didn't want to be excluded. So I thought, okay, right, I'll sign up for this half marathon. finished the half marathon, and then said, I'm never running that distance ever again. That's the first and last time I'm running a half marathon. And then I started reading books written by ultra marathon runners. So Scott Jurack's books, he's got a few that are really good actually. David Goggins, those kinds of like, inspirational books. And then I realized that people actually do these like long distances. And if they can do it, what's stopping me from doing it? And so, yeah, over COVID, I just had the time to run and to train. And yeah, I think I ran my first ultra marathon by myself, unsupported. I think it was 50k over lockdown, and yeah, it was a good day.
It is amazing, and I think this is something that you see in books like that, and when you listen to conversations, podcasts, or whatever, and you must see this on a day-to-day basis as well in your work. But what the human body is capable of is pretty mind-blowing sometimes, isn't it?
Exactly. And when we think it's almost having worked in hospital and seen how how unwell patients can be, but they still manage to push through. I know that the body is capable of so much more than we give it credit for. And I guess I can sort of apply that to my running. When I'm really, really tired, I know that I can push a little bit further and run an extra few kilometers. And yeah, that's definitely helped me in some of the ultras that I've done, especially the Sri Lanka ultra, where I didn't think that I was going to finish that. It was a 5-day, 250-kilometer ultra, and it was so hot, and I just kept thinking in my mind, you can do it. Like, it's all mental. Like, physically, like, you are probably dehydrated. I was drinking so much water. I think I had like 20 bottles of water, and I hadn't weed once, and it was bad. It was pretty bad. No, it's not good at all. But it was just like one foot in front of the other. You can do it, and I managed to finish it. So very proud moment.
There's a couple of things I want to pick up on then, and I think near the start of this conversation you said like during lockdown you just kind of wanted to be outside, you wanted to be in the fresh air, and running has done that for you, not only in this country but like around the world. Running's taken you some amazing places, and you've seen some amazing things through running. It almost feels like a privilege sometimes when you go to these places and see these things, doesn't it?
Exactly. I do find that the best way to explore a new place is to go for a run. And I always love, whenever I travel, going for a run in the morning before everyone's up, and just like seeing the sights. And then I'll go out later on in the day and it'll be totally different with lots of people around and lots of things going on. But also just like competing in races. I've run in like lots of different environments. In Santorini, that was beautiful. Just like seeing, the coast, the sea, the mountains, like places like that. And I feel like you appreciate it so much more when you're jogging through them. Although rather than walking, you cover a lot more distance. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is about running through a new place rather than walking, for example. But I guess, yeah, it's just a great way to explore a place.
I always think as well, like I had the opportunity this year to go out and pace a friend that was doing the Moab 240, and I ran about 70 mile of the race with him, and it was just, if I hadn't said yes to that opportunity and gone and done it, I would never have been to the summit of the La Salle Mountains, or I would have never have seen the sky like as clear as it was in the middle of the night, because there's no reason for me to ever have been up that place at that time. It almost feels like running sometimes brings you these experiences that you never would have got without it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think when you appreciate things much more when you run. You almost feel like you've earned that beautiful sunrise in the morning, and it makes it seem even more beautiful when you've run and you've seen the sunrise. It's things like that. Yeah, I totally agree.
And sometimes even just day to day, isn't it? Like before we had this conversation, I asked, like, had you been out? You said going out later because the skies are blue where you are. And yeah, this morning it was just cold, -4, and like the sun was bursting through the clouds. And you're like, this is better than being in bed. this
Yeah.
this is what I want to be doing right now.
Absolutely. But I do feel that sometimes, I mean, I really lack motivation to go out in the mornings when it's freezing cold. But I always know that me just stepping outside, that's the hardest part of the run for me. Just getting out the door. But after the run, I always feel 1,000 times better than I did before the run. So it's almost, you have to trick yourself into thinking, into like, you know, feeling like you need to think about that feeling at the end of the run before you start it always sometimes in order to get yourself going.
Have like 5 seconds of how you're going to feel after the run when you're trying to put your shoes on, though, because you need that to be like, you'll feel like this for the rest of the day, but right now you don't want to do it.
Exactly. See, that would be ideal. Maybe not physically, but mentally.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
sometimes, obviously, you get a bit sore after runs. Yeah. After running a marathon, I remember I couldn't really walk downstairs. So you don't want that feeling, but you want the mental feeling.
I read a piece that was about you in women's running, and you said in it about writing down 3 things. I think you took this from Goggins's book, writing down 3 things on your arms, on your arm when you're out there, and you look down at them and you think like they're the things that help you push through, including like something from your dad. What do your family think of kind of your running journey? Have they always been super supportive, and now you're kind of stepping up distances, going to do these crazy races in places like Sri Lanka? What's kind of their look on it, I guess?
So my dad, when he was at school, he used to do a lot of running. And growing up, he always encouraged me to run. He would come along to my cross-country races and support me. And I mean, cross-country, that was like, it was pretty short. It was only a few kilometres when I was at school. And I remember he used to run a lot further. And then we used to go out for runs together. So he's always been very supportive. But then when it got to the ultra distances and like the marathon distances, he's never run a marathon before, but he has run a half. He ran his first half actually when he was 60 years old.
Oh, that's unreal. I love
yeah
that.
And it was so impressive. We went to go support him a few years ago, 2 years ago, and yeah, it was a great day. But I remember over COVID, so he was still working during COVID, and I would go out on these long runs, and after coming back home, I would always give him a call and say, "Dad, guess how far I ran today?" And he would never guess, and he'd always be so shocked. And but it would be one of the things I'd look forward to, like coming back from the run, just giving him a phone call and telling him about it. But I do think that he thinks that what I run, like the distances I run, are absolutely mental. So, but he is very supportive.
How do you feel like within yourself when you push enter on a 250-mile ultra race or get the opportunity to run the race? Like, what's that feeling inside you? Is it nervousness? Is it excitement? Is it, I know I'm going to be able to do it? Is it, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it? Like, how do you like feel when you know that this thing is on the horizon?
I guess I don't really get nervous when it comes to ultras, because I find that the ultra environment is very friendly compared to having like competed in 10Ks before, where you get to the start line and everyone's like stretching and like, you know, they've done their warm up. Whereas with ultras, people are like, I don't know, 100 meters away from the start line when you know
when
the race starts. Exactly. And they sort of just walk up very casually. They're not really prepared. They're like, oh no, I've forgotten to fill up my water bottle. And then, you know, they don't mind the extra minutes that are added on. And so, yeah, I don't really get nervous where like at the start or before the race, but I think it's during the race when you feel a little niggle, or you know, you go through ups and downs. Obviously with ultras, you feel great for a few kilometers and then you can feel really, really rubbish, but then you just got to push through the rubbish feeling and carry on, and then you'll end up feeling great again. So it is just, it's that I do get nervous when I do start to feel a bit worse, but I know that if I push through, I'll feel better.
If you're feeling not as great as you thought you were going to feel close to the start of a race, though, that can be difficult, can't it?
That can be difficult. But I guess, I mean, ultras, as I was saying, everyone is so friendly. I think a lot of people are probably feeling the same as you're feeling. And I've, in other ultras, like in Sri Lanka, I definitely relied on the people around me to help get me through it. We were doing a lot of it together, chatting. I remember there was one person who I was doing the ultra with. I'd never met him before, and he was really struggling. He was almost hobbling. He had a lot of like sunburn. He had like sticks that he was using to run, and I was really struggling with I think it was a really tight ITB, and he offered me his like walking stick. And I just thought, God, that's so generous. Like, even though you're hobbling, and like you're still trying to help me finish, which is just very kind. And it's in very few sports that you have that feeling of camaraderie, which you get with ultra running.
Obviously, you mentioned Love Island at the start of this conversation, and that would have been like part of a kind of big moment of growth when it comes to kind of your public persona and profile and social profile as well. Kind of coming out of that show and doing what you do now on a day-to-day basis, sharing your running journey, sharing kind of like your journey with work and stuff. How have you found the reaction to kind of your everyday life, I guess, away from a show like that?
I think the reaction on the whole has been quite positive, having come off the show. I think it's been good to connect to. I mean, obviously through my social media, people know that I love running, and I think I mentioned it on the show a few times, and that drew in a community of people who also love running, and it was so good to connect with them, see what other people do, like what clubs they're part of. Like, there are so many different running teams and things now going on in London, events, run-through races, that kind of thing, that people are taking part in. And it's just great to have this community of runners linked together, which I really, really enjoy. But also, I don't think I would have been able to do Love Island if I hadn't got the confidence that I've gained through running. I think running has just given me it's definitely changed me as a person. It's made me feel like anything is possible, especially doing ultras. And that was probably one of the reasons why I didn't say no when the opportunity of Love Island came along. I think it was because I had that confidence, leaving my comfort zone through ultra running. I mean, being on a TV show like Love Island is definitely not something that I would have ever thought I'd end up on. Being a medical student and now a doctor, it's something that is totally, totally different to my career. But through knowing that I like leaving your comfort zone always results in new experiences and that kind of thing. That's probably why I signed up. So everything links.
It's kind of like that growth, isn't it? Like putting yourself in a scary situation, whether that be going onto a TV show where you know millions of people are going to be watching, and when you're in there, you don't know whether the reaction is going to be positive or not. To then putting yourself in a 250-mile ultra marathon, you don't know when you're 4 days deep how you're going to be feeling, and it's that. You know they're both going to be very different experiences, but you know that they're both going to lead to some sort of growth, I guess.
Exactly. And even if I'm feeling, even if it's something small, like, you're angry or you're upset about something, going for a run can just really help clear your head. You can think through things while you're on the run. And then you have that small bit of growth where you come back to the run, you're probably feeling a lot better just from doing a bit of exercise, but you're also feeling like you can address the problem, or like, you know, or become a little bit calmer appropriately. And so, I mean, small growths every day, and that all adds up. And so running is definitely like you definitely grow through running, not just physically, but mentally.
Because you love running so much, and like I'm with you on everything you've said in terms of like, if I need to clear my head, if I'm feeling great, I want to go for a run. If I'm feeling bad, I want to go for a run. I need to do it. It's one of those things. And I sometimes worry about like what would happen if I was injured, or what would happen if I couldn't run for some reason. Do you ever worry about that? Do you ever think about like, if I am injured, kind of what am I going to do? How am I going to fill that time? Where is going to be my mental release?
Yeah, I have had injuries. Thankfully, they haven't lasted more than a few months, but I did transition to swimming, doing a bit more of that. I feel like just getting moving is key when you're injured. And so I would swim. I would also, because I love running so much, and did a lot of research on how you can help with running injuries, what things you can do. I found this treadmill called, I think it's the Ultra G, and so it's like an anti-gravity treadmill. So it takes it takes the weight off, and then you slowly increase the weight. So I used to do a lot of running on that when I was injured. They only have a few of them around London, so I'd travel all the way down to, I think it was Clapham, to use one of those, and that definitely helped with injury. But it is tough. I think it would affect me more mentally than it would physically. Yeah. But yeah, just finding ways around it, adapting. I guess that's a test of your mental, like it's a good mental test, I guess. And I've definitely built up my mental strength through running. And so I think if I'm injured, I'd have the strength to just, put running aside, try other things, and then come back to running.
If you were a salesman, right? Mm-hmm. You're trying to sell running to somebody. I think probably they're sold at this point already. But what would be the main things that you would say to them?
It's funny because obviously I love running so much, but now you're asking me to sell it. I'm like, why would you run?
It's cold, it's dark.
It's cold, it's dark. I know, exactly. It's horrible. Don't do it. It's bad for your knees. No, I'm joking. No, it is. I mean, it is the worst thing, but at the same time, it's the best thing. Yeah. I think if you're not a runner at all, and you say you hate running, why not just try slowing down the pace? Joining a group of friends, putting a treat at the end, going jogging to your favourite bakery, and making it enjoyable, like an enjoyable experience. And it's not only good for your physical health, it's so good for your mental health. It keeps me going. It's built up my confidence. It's made me the person who I am. And I wouldn't have done half the things I've done if I hadn't been into running. And so it's really changed my life. And I guess if you tried it, dip your feet in. It's always a risk, but you never know what can happen when you start running.
You've already been with us this year down at a RunThrough race, and I know you're coming to a few more over the next few months as well. In terms of your running goals personally, what's on the horizon? What do you want to do? What's 2024 holding kind of the future?
So firstly, I want to get a sub 40 10K.
Real.
Yeah, so I think I got just over 41 minutes. My last RunThrough race a few weeks ago, but I've been doing RunThrough races for the last maybe 6 years, and I've done the one at the Queen Elizabeth Park a few times, and I think I've had a sub 40 in one of them many years ago, But I'm really struggling now. Obviously, being more of a long distance runner, it's harder. Like an ultra runner, it's harder to get speedy again. But that's definitely my February goal. I'm also doing a few marathons this year, so I'm doing the LA marathon with Runner. Yeah, I use that to train for my marathons, and so they're sponsoring the event out there, so I'm running that, and also really excited to be running the London Marathon in April. I've never run it before, and I think it's just going to be the best day ever. I cannot wait. And then I think I'm going to transition to longer stuff towards the end of the year, maybe running 100 miler. That's been on the bucket list for a long time, and so trying to tick that off in about September, October time. We'll just see. Just a few things. Yeah. So I've got a plan in my head. I haven't really, nothing's been actioned yet, but yeah, that's the goal. That's the dream.
Everything you've heard about London is all true. That's all I'll say. Like everything you've heard, the crowds, the when you run over the bridge, like it's all true. Like just try and the one thing that I definitely was guilty of when I ran it the first time was just suffering too much, I'd say. Like I just put myself in too much of a hole and didn't enjoy it. And then when I went back the second time and did it, I was just like, I just want to enjoy this because there's like the atmosphere is so unbelievable, and the support on the course is unbelievable, and then the finish is just like feels like you're in a film. Are you really looking forward to experiencing all of that, everything you've heard, experiencing it for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I don't really mind about the time that I finish it in or anything like that. I'm looking forward to the experience. I've chatted to so many people who've done the London Marathon, and lots of people with really inspiring stories for running it. And yeah, I cannot wait to experience it myself. I'm so excited.
You mentioned coming back down kind of from the ultra distance, and that's something I've related to as well with what you were talking about. You're coming back down, trying to get faster again. It's so hard to do that, isn't it? Go from that endurance base back down to trying to get fast again. It's like my legs don't do this. That's not what they do.
Exactly. No, I've really struggled with that, and I'm used to just like plodding along, smiling while I'm running, and now having to do the quick shorter distances where you're constantly out of breath. And it is, I've forgotten how painful that can be. Like people say that ultras are painful. They feel easy compared to, a quick 10K. I feel like I'm in so much pain. And it just requires so much focus as well. Just, like head down, just got to like carry on, go, finish. I guess that's the same with ultras, but it's just, I feel like you don't really look around as much when you're focused on a goal, and that can sometimes take away from the fun of it. But it is very like crossing that finish line is always the most satisfying feeling, which makes up for having your head down and focusing.
The suffering.
That's
exactly, when you need somebody to give you his poles or something like that, like in the Sri Lanka race. You're like, just give me something, help me, please. Can I have a bike?
Exactly. Yeah, a bike would be great. I'll just finish off the rest of the race cycling.
I always feel dead weird about like speaking about ultras sometimes, because when you say to somebody, oh, I went and ran whatever 250k over 5 days like you did, it's straight away it's like that sounds so scary, and so to so many people, like, I can't do that. That's the thing you hear so much, right? I can't do that. There's no way I could do that. When actually, I'm not saying that race specifically, but when you've done longer distance races, sometimes they can actually be easier than like trying to run a fast marathon, because it's just about the experience. It's about getting to the destination, getting to the finish line, but like you say, it's about the smiling, it's about the experience, it's about the kind of camaraderie of the race. People that are scared of ultras, it is doable, isn't it?
Exactly. And there are so many races that are ultras that are now aimed at total beginners. People obviously need a little bit of training, so that their body is used to longer stuff, but the time limits are really, really generous, so that if you do want to walk a little bit, every single ultra I've done, I've walked in. There is no point me running up a hill and using up lots of energy. It would be pointless. I wouldn't enjoy the race. I'd probably get injured. It's just people don't really realise that you can walk in ultras. You stop at they have like lots of checkpoints where you can stop at. Have a chat with whoever's around you, have some lunch, and then carry on. And it's just about enjoying it, and ultimately it's about finishing it. With ultras, it doesn't matter what time you do it in, as long as you finish it. Well, I mean, even if you don't finish it, obviously you can try again, but the main goal is finishing rather than getting a time. And that's the real achievement, which is why I love ultras. It's yeah.
When you say about the 100 miler towards the end of this year, that's a huge goal, something got no doubt that you'll achieve. And we've talked about kind of the 2024 goals. And we'll finish with this. Let's say Priya, looking back when she's older, like your dad at 60, running a half marathon, do you always hope to run?
Yeah, I definitely think I'll need a knee replacement at some stage in my life.
You're in the right profession, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. I should probably find one of my friends who's a future surgeon, get in early, get on the wait list now. No, I always see myself running, even if it's shorter distances, ultras. Maybe when I have more time, when I retire, I'll be doing a few more ultras. Just keeping things going. It's so good for your health, every single part of your health. I did a degree in sports and exercise medicine, and learned that exercise was not only good at preventing illnesses but also treating things, which I didn't really realise. Like, lots of people think, when you've got I don't know, a chest infection, for example, doing exercise is the worst thing you can possibly, going for a run is the worst thing you can do. But actually doing really low intensity exercise, like a really slow jog, can help treat your chest infection. So, I think as you get older, it's more important to be running. So I definitely see myself doing that.